Welcome to the Million Dollar Multi-Op Podcast. Here, you're going to find education, entertainment, and a little inspiration on how to get to the next level. Are you a DJ company owner that's looking for the secret sauce? Congrats, you found it.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Million Dollar Multi-Op Podcast. I'm your host, David Osborne with BlueprintLearn.com. And today we got a nice, spicy little treat for everybody that's listening out there. We got a little format, little multiple guest action. We're calling this the hot seat with Matt Radicelli because Matt, as an industry expert, owner and operator of Mentor Pods, he and I are going to collaborate together and answer a real live fire question from a listener. And Matt, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Mentor Pods? Give me a little 30-second real quick.
30 seconds. Mentor Pods. We take 18 to 24 business owners. We put them in a pod for an entire year. We actually have a 1 month and a 3 month program too, but we get to know your business. You're not just a number. We know all about you. And we teach you about sales and marketing and financials and leadership and systems and processes. And we're not only like the cheerleaders, but we also hold your hand and we teach you lots of things. So we're right there as the coach, sometimes a consultant, other things, but it's fun. And we help you make life better. That's there you go. There's your 30 seconds or so.
29 seconds. Well done, sir.
Yes.
Crushed it. Didn't even time it, but I think it was 29 seconds. So us together, Matt and I have done some stuff together. There's a killer podcast episode with Matt from like a year ago about common mistakes multi-op owners make. If you haven't heard that one, it is essential to your listening. And today on our first hot seat podcast, we've got the one and only Gerry Siracusa. What's up, Gerry?
What's going on, David? What's going on, Matt? Hope all is well.
Everything's great. Glad to have you on. Like I said, this is our first multi-person podcast, and we're excited to have a question from you live on the air. So since I gave Matt a few seconds to introduce himself and talk a little bit about Mentor Pods, talk to us about you. Talk to what's your business, where are you located?
Sounds great. Gerry Siracusa, Golden Note Entertainment in New Jersey. 37 years in the biz and loving every minute of it.
Man, 37 years.
Yes, sir.
Are you on the Jersey Shore?
No. That's a whole different breed down there. We're up in North Jersey. We kind of service North Jersey, New York City, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The shore is a different animal.
Don't they say that if you are a DJ in New Jersey that you could throw a rock and hit another DJ?
Oh my God.
They're close enough. I don't mean in a violent way. I mean like they're just close
No.
enough.
Well, it could be violent if we choose to. It depends who it is. But yeah, we literally there's probably a DJ every mile. No joke. It's unbelievable how many DJs are here, but it's also unbelievable how many venues are here. So there is enough work for everybody. You just got to do it right. That's all. It's pretty simple.
All about that market, right?
It's all, listen, the equation's pretty simple. Just do it right and do it often. That's it.
There you go. Well, Gerry's got a question for us, for me and Matt today. So, Gerry, when you're ready, fire away.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's kind of funny because as a 37-year, OG, this is something new. With remote work being such a big part of our business, VAs, Upwork, Fiverr, how do you dip your toe into it? How do you get involved in it? And what are your best practices? This is something that really, really hits home with me. That's for sure.
I love this question. This is a good one.
Come on, man. I'm the first one. I got to make sure I make you sweat out of the get.
Let's go.
That's right. Matt, you go first. You kick it off here.
Well, what I love about this is that the goal of using services like Upwork or Fiverr, or any other one that you find that you get referred to, it's very, very, it's widely varied for what you're trying to get. Sometimes you are, like you said in your question, Gerry, trying to hire a virtual assistant. And sometimes you're just trying to fill a gap that you have not been able to accomplish within your business. So you just need something done short term. So it's a little bit different, So I think that one of the things I want to mention is there are big differences between Fiverr and Upwork. Fiverr's been on the scene a long time. You guys some of you probably remember a long time ago making assumptions about Fiverr being a little bit low quality. And yeah, you get something done for $5 or $10, but it was done fast. But they've done a lot to, change their engine for what's being done. And you can really not only go shop for something specific that you're looking for, but you can also shop for talent. Upwork is a little bit different on the other side, though. So I think we should pick that apart a little bit. Best practices are to understand the platforms first, I would say, is to understand which ones are for what and what you're trying to do. For instance, if you were trying to hire a bookkeeper for some short-term work to maybe change your QuickBooks or clean it up for the last 12 months or so, I would not go to Fiverr for that. That is not something I would use Fiverr for. I would go directly to Upwork or similar, and I would build out a job description for that, and I would interview just like I would if I were doing live candidates. So again, knowing the differences between that versus if I needed somebody to go build me an intro for a podcast or make a graphic for a video intro for a DJ demo, something of the sort, I would go to Fiverr for that all day.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I think I tend to use Fiverr a lot less than I do Upwork, mostly because we have the in-house resources for that mostly that you would get on Fiverr. We have a lot of creative and multimedia in-house stuff, but that's not to say we wouldn't use it. Upwork tends to be my favorite playground for hiring people, and everything Matt just said, just understanding the platforms. And I think it was actually Matt who introduced me to some of these best practices a few years ago, but understanding how to ask for what you want. So a step before that is to know exactly what you want done to look like, what you want to be good enough to be, and then being able to communicate that through an RFP. So I think I'm going to pause here and let's talk about what an RFP is. And then Gerry, I want you to see if you have any questions after we ask about this. RFP, Matt, you want to talk to us about what that is?
Yeah, so an RFP is a request for proposal. So when we worked on this a couple of years ago, David, we were learning how to build out the concept of saying, hi, this is who I am. This is what my business does. This is the need that I have. And these are the very specific bullet points that I want accomplished. And those are the very same things that you would grade the contractor by to achieve success and to rate their quality and service. So when you're going to work with Upwork.com, you basically want to start with that before you even jump on the website. And there are some nice AI tools built into their website now. But if we use the example of bookkeeping, if we know that you jump onto the site, you want to say, hi, I'm Gerry, and my business has been around for a long time. We do about 300 events a year. This is important, right? Because the person on Upwork is going to start to assume the number of transactions you have. So we want to tell them, a bunch about our business, something like that. And then we want to identify in paragraph form exactly what we're looking for from them. We want them to categorize our expenses. We want you to clean up our chart of accounts. We want you to then also categorize our revenues. And I would like my profit and loss statement to look pretty when we're all done. I'm looking for a contractor that is responsive. I'm looking for somebody who is currently in the United States, but I'm open-minded to them being in these other regions. The RFP is everything in one sort of paragraph text form. You can also have links inside of it. And it tells the person on the other end whether it's something that they want to apply for. It's really important to do this because so many people that are listening to our podcast, David, they're saying, yeah, I've gone and interviewed somebody and not really knowing what the job description was. And then I was just sort of like, I don't know what I want you to do. This saves you so much time to do the RFP properly. But the moment you do it properly the first time, request for proposal, when you put it out there, you're basically taking that hook that's properly baited and throwing it in the right pond. So you can start fishing and you can catch the right fish at the right time.
What do you think about that, Gerry?
Sounds very interesting. To be candid, there's another piece of this puzzle. You brought home a nerve, right? The bookkeeping. That's your finances. That's under your dress, for lack of a better term, right? How do you choose the right? I mean, you're basically exposing your underbelly to people that you don't even know that may not even be in this country. How do you find the right person, not just the right person that could do the job because they say all the right things, but the right person to do the job that they're a moral entity?
I think that I've had tremendous success with Upwork, even with all around the planet. I've had people from all over. And what I find interesting is that community that gets rated really high, if you're getting a lot of responses to your RFP and you're looking through all of the people that are interested in working on your job, they all have ratings. It's just like, would you get in the car in an Uber with someone that had a 3.5 out of 5? No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, no, thank you. So you're looking, I want an Uber driver that's got a 5-star review or close to it. Same kind of thing. If you're looking for people that have a lot of experience, that have real reviews and testimonials. And I find that, I'm frequently giving away login information to people and strangers from Pakistan or Ukraine or different places. And I have to understand the risk and reward. I mean, for me, if I have the opportunity to put together another login for someone else, I'm going to do that. If I can get, admin level access or give some of those permissions minus a few things to someone else who's going to work on my account, that's what I'm going to do first. That a lot of like QuickBooks has that sort of feature, a lot like WordPress and Squarespace have those features that you can give other people access to your stuff without them being able to write. They can read only access to things. But I think if you can combine that trust factor of real life 5-star reviews and seeing those people, interviewing them thoroughly, and then also just being able to protect yourself by giving them that read-only access, that would be the move. Matt?
Yeah, we're in 100% agreement here. If the RFP is the first step that we're going to go after, the second step is to understand the best practices of how to sift through the flood of applications you're going to get on a site like this. And David hit it on the head. What you can do is you can sort that set of applications by their rating, and you have to decide what's important to you. I tend to look for a very high rating, like what David mentions. I look for a 100% completion rate, because you're going to get some that say 85%, 92%, 96%. And it's nice to see that some of them are 96. And I know that we don't mind getting in that Uber that's 4.97. But if I do have 10 or 15 candidates that are 100% completion rate, why wouldn't I pick them, right? So the first thing I do is I dump out and flush out everybody who's under 100%, and I start there. And I start to look at their other credentials. And what David was mentioning is definitely part of my playbook, which is that I want to interview them. And what I do is I try to automate as much of this as I can. So right after I build an RFP, excuse me, guys, I actually built out a set of questions or testing mechanisms for every single person that I'm going to hire to do a job, because I really just want to test and see what their responsiveness is. There's two ways you got to think about this, Gerry. The first is that if you were just interacting with this person, trying to see if they are quick to respond, if their spelling and grammar is good, if their timing matches up with your schedule, that's great. But if you're going to give them an actual thing to do, it breaks terms of service with a service like Upwork to ask them to do work or test to interview without paying them. So we need to be upfront right away and say, just want to let you know you've made it to the next step. I'd like you to complete this task, and this task, but I'm going to pay you. I'm offering $18 an hour for you to log these hours during this time frame. So be very careful in services like this. You can't say, hey, I want you to create a logo, but can you make me a sample first? No, you can't do that. They're going to say, you can go look at my portfolio, but if you want me to do work for you, you have to pay me for it. And you'll get your account suspended if that happens too. So that's actually a best practice in there. So yeah, man, you get the flood of things, sort them the way that you want to based on where they are in the world, if you care. What's that rating look like? And then get ready to start interacting and start testing. And you got to stick with it. You got to be consistent. Don't get lazy. You're going to get some really good applications in the first moment it opens. It's kind of like working with Indeed, Gerry, where there's a flood and there's a drip that comes a little bit after. And some of my best candidates have come a couple days after I've opened something up. So I normally don't go for the first one unless I need something fast, obviously.
Right.
Anything else to add to that, David? What do you think?
Oh, 100%. It's definitely a flood at the beginning. And then the people who are in that drip are typically searching for whatever tags you put in the job. Whereas the people who are in that initial flood are just, hey, I just saw it on the list. I'm clicking on everything. And one of the ways that we filter through Upwork, and Fiverr, any kind of VA work, is the same thing Matt said, some sort of sample. And what you can do before you get to the place where they make it to that next round, like my first line of defense is the same exact thing I do when I recruit DJs, and I call it a tripwire task. What's funny is like I have been doing this for years in the DJ world, And then when I started getting into SaaS and the blueprint and developing the blueprint and getting in conversations with all of these other developers, I got advice from other SaaS developers, and they were like, oh yeah, you gotta give them something to do that kind of see if they can follow directions and if they're detail oriented. And I was like, that's what we do in the DJ world with recruiting. This is great. It's like a cool universal idea. And so it's very simple. What I do pretty religiously is in the first RFP, I say, please take a screenshot. So this would be blueprint specific, but please take a screenshot of the FAQ page on the blueprint and include that in your response. And so I'm just looking to see, did you even read what I wrote? And did you do it? Like, is it accurate? Because so many people that have 5-star reviews, all these things, they'll just send you a canned response. I'd much rather work with someone who read it and paid attention, because they're going to be a much better person to work with.
Interesting. David's a jerk. See this whole thing. I agree 1,000%. I do want to point out though that since platforms like Upwork have given the user on the other end the ability to use AI on their side also, I don't want to penalize the individual for that. So I think that the tripwire tasks need to exist at a couple different levels. And I think that there needs to be a little bit of grace in the first step. But if the task that you were asking for is going to turn out hundreds of applicants, I'm all for what David is saying. But some people, when they put something out there, are going to experience getting 10. And it may be that the sample size isn't large enough to use a tripwire task that aggressive for something like that. But we do agree. Sometimes I move that task a couple tasks in. That way the pool starts a little bit larger. But yeah, man, you're aggressive, David. You're mean.
No, what it is I have no time and I have no tolerance. And that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that's the same thing.
You are right. Yeah, listen, that is absolutely a best practice. And as kidding as I am about it, you're 100% right, and it is the way to do it.
Would you guys let's say that I have 3 tasks that I need done. Would you pick the smallest task first and kind of get your feet wet? Like, how would you, somebody who has never used Upwork, not once, being honest, I've used Fiverr, but I've never used Upwork. What would be the ease into it? Or would there be an ease into it?
Are these tasks related to each other, or are they just 3 random things?
They are graphic and video related.
Okay. Well, one of the other best practices we didn't mention sort of addresses this question, and that's that sometimes, because the pricing is honestly quite low for what you're going to find and very value oriented, I'll actually try and find 2 or 3 people to do the exact same task, because I just don't know if I'm going to like the first or the second one. So why build one when you can build 2 for double the price? It's a great quote from a movie a long time ago, Contact. And, if you need something graphic done, where the output is subjective, whether we like it or not, I say hire 3 different people to do it. So sometimes that task that you're doing could end up like that. Now, bookkeeping is different, right? But if you're not sure if you want to award one person that contract to do all 3 things, then yeah, I would say start with the first one all day. But I am also a fan of hiring multiple people to do the exact same job, so I have options. So when I'm thinking in terms of budgeting, if I know that maybe this thing's going to take somebody 3 hours at $20 an hour, I don't think of it like a $60 task, Gerry. I think of it like a $200 task, because I'm getting options, really, really good ones.
That's solid advice right there.
That's solid.
I was going to say that for you, like just for you personally, Gerry, you might want to create a sample test project just for yourself, just so that you feel more comfortable with Upwork. And it could be super simple. It could be like, hey, can you I just need someone to proofread my homepage on my website and make sure it's on a 3rd grade reading level. Something that's like, you don't even need it, but it would take someone an hour, or they could use an AI tool and have it done for you. And it could be a $20 task or something. So you can go through the process of creating an RFP, sorting through applicants, trying it out, interviewing people. And it's a non-destructive task. Nothing's going to happen. Someone's just going to read it. They're going to give you advice, and then you're done. And you don't they're not touching any of your login stuff. That's probably what I would advise you, just to just get yourself more comfortable.
Okay. Since we landed a little bit on the design side of things, I think we have to throw in another service. You've got services like Design Pickle for that, which is, crowd sourcing of design stuff. Also 99 Designs from Vistaprint. Those are services that act on the front end very similar to how a Fiverr or Upwork is, but you've got a lot more people that are in the creative space living there. So just want to put that out there. If I had to pick one platform for everybody listening, it would be Upwork. I would pick Upwork all day above everything else. But if I'm needing a specialty at different price points, I'd also throw those other services in there.
I agree. And Gerry, I think this is worth mentioning, and I'm going to try and phrase this as best as I can. Different countries and different places for developers on Upwork typically have generalized different behaviors when you're working with them. And I was just going to talk about my personal experience. I find that if you're working with people based in the United States, you're going to get interactions that you're more accustomed to because you are an American, but you're also going to be paying way more money, in my experience. If you go to India, you're going to get way cheaper prices, and they do phenomenal work, but it requires a lot more direction. You have to be very specific about what you want. If you're like, hey, I need my finances done, you can't end that sentence that way. You have to be like, I need it this way. You have to give them like almost like a system or a process to follow. All of the offshore companies I've used from India for Upwork, as long as I give them a very, very specific system or process or a Loom video, or this is exactly how I want this done, it is fantastic. And they deliver on time. They're very great. They're awesome to work with. But you have a lot more involvement from you on the front end and making sure that you check on it and make sure it's being done well. Because there's a lot of agencies in India where you might have one contact person and they have 30 people that work for them, and you don't know who's doing the work. So like you have to really feel that out. And then I found a lot of success with using folks in the Ukraine and in the Philippines. Those two countries, for me personally, they seem to kind of be a good blend between understanding American vernacular and work styles, and then also delivering great product. That's not to say you're not going to find great product anywhere else, but like in my personal experience, I've found great success in those three areas.
So you made up a point, and Matt, you said it also. When you're talking about the RFP and being very descriptive with your P&L, making it pretty and blah 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 blah. So with vernacular and being specific in mind, what things did you find in your use of remote work that you would say would be, again, best practices? Like what do we take for granted that we shouldn't when using remote workers? Like for instance, let's take the bookkeeping thing. David, you said it. Like, I need my P&L cleaned up. It can't be. That's not it. Mm-hmm. What things would you add that we take for granted that we shouldn't?
My perspective is that the rating system inside the system, the completion rate and whether they're, highly rated, that basically grades the work ethic and the quality of the work. What isn't really there is the communication. So the major difference when you're working with somebody who's in India or looking at the USA, and I want to throw, David, your favorites as far as countries and regions there. I want to throw South Africa into there. South Africa has been some of the absolute best contractors that I've worked with, and it's a nice blend of the value from some of the other regions, but the communication style and work ethic of what I would say is from some of the best contractors in the USA. But Gerry, to answer your question directly, it really just comes down to your communication, your ability to describe what it is that you're looking for. And a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. So in the bookkeeping side, because you're not the expert, you sort of need somebody to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish so they can connect the dots for you. If your communication with that person, let's say, and this is all hypothetical, guys, remember, we're talking about generalities. Some of the best bookkeepers I have ever worked with are in Pakistan, for instance, right? So it is not about one place or another. I just think that somebody who is a novice that doesn't understand accounting or accounting terminology, gap accounting, things like this, speaking with somebody from the USA might be easier for that person and might be easier, right? in terms of the time, and take you less time to get there faster. So even though it seems like it might be more expensive, it might actually cost you less in the long run, and less frustration if, 1 + 2 doesn't equal 3 when you get to where you need to go. So there you go. I think ultimately it's still about the communication and your knowledge. It also doesn't hurt to tap a third party. If you, Gerry, hypothetically didn't know what to ask, you could go ask your accountant for a little bit of guidance to review that RFP before you put it out there, right? Or maybe send it to David or send it to me and say, what would you change in this RFP before I post this up? And that's going to get you further faster.
Awesome.
Gerry, do you have any other clarifying questions?
No, this has been gold. Amazing. It's something that I think is very, very underpublished as far as this topic goes. I mean, people know about it, but they don't really use it for multiple reasons. And to be totally honest with you, discomfort is probably the biggest one. And you've made a very uncomfortable topic for me comfortable, which I appreciate.
Good, Gerry. Glad to help. Well, thank you, Gerry, for coming on the very first hot seat. And thank you, Matt, for lending your expertise. And for everyone listening, let us know what you think about the hot seat format if you would like to hear more of these. And we'll see you on the next one.